Hello, I am Jacob Jones, and welcome to WYBNOO, or What You've Been Nerding Out On. I am joined today by a pretty cool guest. His name is Asa Gray from the Nerdiest Part of the Ring podcast, and he's here to talk all about wrestling. What's up, man? How's it going?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I just realized I didn't pull up my script, so that was all straight from the dome. Straight from the dome.
Perfect.
I don't know.
Killed it.
I just a lot of hours talking to myself, talking into this microphone, spending so much time podcasting. But it ain't about me. This is the show where I have cool people on my podcast to talk about what the hell they've been nerding out about, what they're super into, what they're passionate about, and we'll have them, get into those things too, probably because you're so interested in what they're saying, because I'm very much interested. So without further ado, let's get straight into the introduction of Mr. Asa Gray. Who are you? Where do you come from? And what do you do?
I am Asa. I host the Nerdiest Part of the Ring pro wrestling podcast. It is myself and my friend Dalton Anthony, and we are kind of in the process of retooling it a little bit because when we first started it, it was a weekly news roundup show that we would just kind of recap all of the news in the world of pro wrestling, and then we've kind of pivoted because we started every episode with the power of positivity, which for those wrestling fans obviously know that's a New Day reference, where we just pick something in the week from wrestling that made us happy, and we kind of gushed about that because pick your favorite hobby in the nerd space, and it's going to be nothing but like bad news and bad takes and people just being mad about stuff. So we wanted to counteract that. And then, so this kind of new idea is more of just like a prolonged episode where the whole episode is just the power of positivity, where it's just like, there's not a lot of sense in just, thinking about and dwelling on the stuff that we don't like. So let's just talk about the stuff that we do like, because that is more fun. Now, obviously, it's not like the toxic positivity where we ignore all of the bad stuff, because there is stuff in wrestling, unfortunately, that is really awful that happens sometimes. But it is just more of a celebration of wrestling because it is the coolest thing in the world.
That's incredible. I love that. I love that so much. Like, in the gaming space on the internet, I try to be a positive voice as much as I can because it's just so negative. And with all fandoms, I swear to God, it's just complaints upon complaints. Go to any subreddit for any interest, especially if it's specifically like a movie or a show. The Last of Us subreddit is just people talking shit about the casting and like how, what's her name is just not Ellie and all this bullshit. And I'm just so sick and tired of the negativity. I love that your podcast is all about the highlights, the good things, the things that you make you happy, and just probably like smiling and laughing the whole time you're doing it, right?
For sure. And it's and like I said, it's not always just, because you can be critical of stuff. There's stuff that happens in wrestling, like even just like matches that happen where it's like, that one didn't really click for me. That one, there's stuff maybe went wrong. Like that obviously didn't go how they wanted it to go. And so it's okay with like pointing stuff out, or even just like, because sometimes stuff just isn't for everybody. And it's easy to just be like, I don't like it, so it's bad. Because I was really terrible about that for a really long time. And so it is, but it is, there's a difference between I hate that and you because you did it or you like it, versus I didn't really like that, but I did like this. What did what did you think of that? So I would rather have those kind of conversations than just the blanketly, crapping on everything.
Yeah. I mean, much too often people plant their flag in something. That's their entire identity. So if you don't go along with that, then you're a piece of shit, or you're not worthy, or whatever, which is so dumb.
You don't know what you're talking about.
It's so dumb. Literally, this show exists so I can prove that everyone's into something, and that doesn't mean they're into everything. And that's totally fucking fine. At the end of the day, we're all working and we're all coming home and we have time to do whatever it is we're into. I like to cook. You know what I mean? I like to play video games. It makes me happy. That doesn't mean that just because you don't cook, if not you specifically, but in
Right.
general, you're not like a cook. Doesn't mean you're a piece of shit or you just don't like Lord of the Rings. I may give you an eyebrow because I'm like, come on, it's Lord of the Rings, but I'm not gonna hate on you. I might give you a little bit of a hard time just because I think it's funny. But hey, let people do what they want, right?
There's a content creator, YouTuber named Brian Zane. He has a channel called Wrestling with Regret, and he has the best phrase for this. He applies it mostly to wrestling, but it is just across everything. Like what you like, don't be a dick.
Love it, love it. I always
It's perfect. It's perfect.
That is perfect. That's awesome. I always say, let people do whatever they want as long as they're not hurting anyone else.
Yeah,
Essentially,
for
same
sure.
thing. But hey, we're here to talk about the topic of the week. So I will ask you what you've been nerding out on, Asa Gray, and this is where you
It
say
is
wrestling.
it is professional wrestling for sure.
Awesome. So
Uh,
let's talk a little bit about it. So, what is
yeah.
wrestling, man?
Oh, it is it's the best thing in the world. It is live theater, it is stunt work, it is improv, it is monologues, it is whatever you think it can be. It is incredibly dangerous, it is incredibly silly. It's, people risking their lives, all on one take live theater. Uh and there is truly nothing else like it on the planet. When it's done well, again, it's the coolest thing in the world. When it's done poorly, it is the worst thing in the world. And there's just something a little magical about that. Because the highs can be so high and the lows can be low.
Hmm. Yeah, agreed. Um, I don't know. I mean, people getting hurt for one, that kind of isn't good,
Oh yeah,
right?
that is a bummer. Just tonight, before we went live. I was watching AEW Dynamite,
Hmm.
and there were not one but two pretty big instances of like, ooh, I'm gonna need a news update on an injury status for two people, hopefully soon, because some of that stuff looked rough. And that's coming off of the AEW pay per view that was this past Sunday that Dalton and I will be talking about tomorrow night.
Nice.
The AEW Double or Nothing, that the report was maybe not any long-term injuries that people are going to have to miss a substantial amount of time, but a lot of people not coming out worse for wear, we'll say.
Hmm.
Especially
Yeah.
that the Anarchy in the Arena match was just some next level violence and gross stuff happening. So
Okay, so let's take a step back. So, professional wrestling, right? Which is what we're specifically talking about. We're not talking about like Olympic wrestling, right? I mean, that
right,
is obviously different, although similar things are happening. But professional wrestling is entertainment at its core, right? I
for
mean,
sure.
that's how I definitely put it. But it is such a like display of entertainment and skills and prowess that is truly it's impressive, but it's also like hilarious at times, right? And
It,
even just not like without even saying a word, these guys, it almost like they're half the time being physical comedians, which I, as a comedy fan, can very much respect and love,
yeah,
right?
I mean, it isn't all one thing. It very
Yeah.
much is like music in that there are different genres of
Okay.
wrestling. There are different match types. There's different, different companies that cater to specific things that
Hmm.
some of them are hyper serious. You have like on the independent scene, you have like a GCW Game Changer Wrestling, which really highlights like death matches, and there's blood and barbed wire and
Okay.
going through doors and stuff like that. And then there's also a company that I am not 100% sure if they are still running or not, but it's called Kaiju Big Battle. And it's
Okay.
essentially exactly what it sounds like. It is professional wrestling, but the people are dressed up as like kaiju suits. And they, have like little cities that they will go through and destroy
Oh my
during the
god.
matches. And it's, it is yeah, you got it pulled up here. It can be really, really wild.
This is
um
great.
And then you have, like your more traditional, your WWE, your AEW, your TNA,
Hmm.
as like the big three American companies going right now.
Nice.
So that I think to me that is what makes wrestling so special is that there is something for everybody. Not everybody's
Hmm.
going to like every type. Like for me personally, I don't really dig the deathmatch stuff,
Mm.
like the
You
hyper
don't.
violent, the uh, you know
Mhm.
staplers and
Yeah,
glass
like the
panes and
thumbtacks on the ground and shit.
yeah, and
Right.
even like stuff like that where I'm just like, okay, I think Dalton, who does wrestle, he
Not
I don't
really.
remember where, I don't know
Your
where he
co
got it from.
your
Yeah,
co-host on your show. Oh, cool.
yeah.
Nice.
um I don't remember where he got it from or if it's just something that he says, but someone was asking him about a deathmatch thing. He's like, yeah, brother, I do headlocks. I just that's more my speed. I'm like, yeah, I respect that for sure.
Okay, so
uh
a headlock is like, let's stand here for a sec and set something up, versus like, I'm gonna hit you with the goddamn like chain, or throw
yeah,
you
i'm
into
just
the
gonna
barbed wire door, and then you're just
I'm gonna
bleeding all over the place.
break a light tube over your head. Just, stuff,
Okay.
just a casual thing like that.
I mean, that shit seems like so very painful. I will say that, like I did mention earlier, the buddy Mr. Hawks, he's in the chat right now, from the Story Motors podcast. He took me to some wrestling shows. I live in Vegas.
Okay,
So
cool.
obviously WrestleMania happened here recently, and
Hmm.
he was like, "I'm gonna be in town. Let's go to some of the, the lower, like the not main event shows, because there's like hella shows in
Yeah,
whatever city WrestleMania is happening in, for the layman, of course." And they were great. And I think at the end of the TNA show, I believe there was like a brutal match like that. And like, I will say, I liked it. I liked
yeah.
the blood.
It's
It
they
was pretty
can
awesome.
they can do it. They can do it really well. Like I respect it. I just it's not
Yeah.
some of the stuff that they do. It's just like that's not really for me, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, Sammy Callahan versus Mance Warner, that'll do it. Like that, I 100%, I 100% believe it. I've actually been on shows with both of them, and they are both very nice people.
See, and that's okay. We have to address that like up top. Like, no matter what you see with these wrestlers, um, we're not talking about Vince McMahon, but we're talking about the wrestlers
Yeah,
themselves. They all seem like the nicest people. All of the like interactions with them outside of the ring with like celebrities or like with Kind of Funny and stuff, and stories I've heard. My fiance works at Cure for the Kids here in Vegas, which is that's pediatric oncology. Some former wrestlers went in there to visit the kids, for free, and like sign stuff. And they're just, the wrestlers themselves just seem so like professional and like just so nice and amazing. Like that's one thing I can really respect about wrestling.
and I mean, and it's like any industry. You're gonna have people that are complete assholes. You're gonna have people that are just the sweetest people on the planet. I think specifically with wrestling, especially nowadays, you and especially more at the like independent level, like
Mm.
nothing against anybody that works at WWE and AEW, because there are people that work at both of those companies that are complete sweethearts
Hmm.
and are very very generous with their time,
Of
and
course.
like that. But like especially like the independent wrestlers who are, they are booking shows themselves, they have no real safety net, it is just all on them. I think there is a level of appreciation
Hmm.
because they know what the value of spending a ticket and spending your time at these events, and a lot of the times like the travel. Our friend Dylan is the best professional wrestling fan that I know because he travels like state to state to see some of these independent shows just to
Nice.
support independent wrestling and the people going out there, and he's buying merch and posting photos that he takes of them that they can then turn around and post. And it's just it is very nice to see, and it is something that I do really love about pro wrestling is there are so many just genuinely great people involved in it.
Yeah, absolutely seems that way. And even at the shows that we watched, like the merch people were the wrestlers. Like the wrestlers were
Yeah.
going and selling their own merch, and I was just like, this is cool. This just feels like a club, like
Hmm.
of people, like a real community of fans, and the wrestlers clearly also being fans themselves of the medium, which is great. You gotta love that level of passion. Um, so awesome, yeah. So that's what wrestling is, right? It's a show. It's a thing you watch, but it's
Yeah,
also
it's
enthralling.
very, and I love when people like it's now that we're well past the era of like kayfabe, which is, okay, you got to make sure that people believe this is real and that
Right.
this is really happening and this is an actual sport. We are so far past that. If you
Oh yeah.
watch the WWE premiere on Netflix, they're just dropping backstage terms and flat out saying it's predetermined and stuff, and it's just like, okay, we are in a new era. But
It's
it
awesome.
is funny anytime because like I don't run into it as much anymore as I did, especially like growing up. But you don't really have the people saying, "Oh, that's fake, right?" It's like, cool. So is The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Like, so is Game of Thrones. Ron Funches is a stand-up comedian that I love that has a bit of just like, you mean you're telling me the undead wizard can't actually shoot lightning bolts at people? Like, no, of course not. Like, no one thinks that this is legitimate anymore. But
Yeah.
but that is part of the fun, like, because it isn't just. It's easy to kind of suspend your disbelief, especially if you can find a character or a wrestler that really, resonates with you,
Yeah.
because then you do find yourself thinking like, okay, there's a couple people that like I do want them to win all their matches. I want them to succeed. I don't
Right.
want to see them lose. And that makes it fun.
But that brings the sport back into the entertainment, and that is the fun thing about sports. You root for someone, which makes it either cut deep when they don't win, or the feeling of absolute triumph you get when they're victorious. And that, on top of being entertained, to me is what is great about wrestling. As professional wrestling, I feel like that's what it does best, is kind of give you both of those feelings at the same time, which is great.
Yeah, for sure.
So hey, what got you into wrestling? Why do you like this wrestling thing so much? What's up?
So it was because I was like 8 years old. I was at my house playing with action figures, and the kid across the street, Andre, came over with some of his action figures. And he had he had an action figure of the Undertaker. And I was like, who is this dude? Like, he's not a ninja, he's not from Ninja Turtles, he's not from uh he's not from the Power Rangers, he's not an X-Men. Like, who is this dude just covered in tattoos and scary looking? And he's like, oh, you don't know who The Undertaker is? Like, no, I don't know who The Undertaker is. He's like, you don't watch wrestling? And I was like, what? I don't know what that is. So I ended up watching it with him every once in a while. I would go to his house and we would watch wrestling. And I've told this story before, but the more I think about it, the more I think I've been getting it wrong. But again, this was almost 30 years ago, so I don't really remember 100%. But I do remember the first thing that really got me was when we watched, I don't remember if we were watching it live or if it was after the fact and we like had rented it on VHS, but it was Bad Blood, Hell in a Cell, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, and it was the debut of Kane, who is, I keep him here. A friend of mine got this for me.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
When he debuted, the lights go out, his organ theme music hits. He just this giant monster of a man in red and black in a horror movie villain mask, and he walks down and he literally rips the locked steel cage door off of the cell and attacks the Undertaker. And it's just like, from then I was hooked. Like, it was done. This dude is my guy. Now, in an unfortunate
Heck
turn
yeah.
of events, the man behind the mask turned out to be a colossal piece of shit, which is truly unfortunate for me.
Yikes.
But as a kid, like, Kane was the coolest thing to ever happen. He'd get hit, like, people would hit him with a chair and he'd just stand there and tank it. Like, didn't matter. He could summon fire to shoot from the turnbuckle corners. Just like absolute monstrosity.
Yeah, it's a big ass dude. And
Oh yeah,
you gotta love the mask, right? I mean, the mask was just so imposing, so like horrifying, yet enthralling.
And the cool thing is he got scarier when they took the mask off of him.
Yeah.
Because like his whole thing was the Undertaker and him were brothers. And when they were little, the Undertaker burned down the house that they lived in, and Kane was the reason he wore the full almost the full bodysuit except for like the one arm and the mask is because he was scarred and disfigured from this fire when he was a kid.
Nice.
But then it turns out it was more, and then it's, Glenn Jacobs, the man behind the mask, like obviously, him and Undertaker weren't brothers. There wasn't a fire. He's not scarred.
No, yeah.
So they were like, oh, well, actually, those were psychological scars, and he's just insane now. And so when he lost the mask, he went just like even more evil somehow, and he set a man on fire and just he hooked up a car battery to a man's testicles. It's wrestling's a lot. It's a lot.
He's like a Doctor Doom style character, right? Like kind of crazy, has a mask on, but then really doesn't have that. It's more of a psychological reason why he's wearing the mask, right?
Yeah, more of
Doom
a, but
just has
without
like a
the,
tiny little scar on his face or something, right? But then he's like, "Oh, I'm so ugly," and then
well, I guess it depends on the version
on the
of
canon.
Doom.
I guess that's
just,
the
like,
version I know.
Melted.
Yeah, well, that's actually pretty metal. I like that.
Yeah,
but
so I watched a little bit with him,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, yeah, wrestling, that's cool. Kane comes, and then I'm just like hooked. And I'd really been a fan ever since. There've been times where I watched less than, like you are with anything, you kind of go in and out of stuff. But a lot of my friends, like, they never really watched it, or if they did, they bounced off of it, relatively quickly.
Right.
But yeah, that was ever since I was a little kid. It's kind of been one of my constants of, I just love this thing. and it's easy enough for me to, like, I can kind of keep, like, I'm in a little bit of a low period right now where I'm not watching as much stuff as I normally would, but I can still keep up with it. I still know what's going on pretty much everywhere, and just, yeah. And then once like something will grab me, like AEW and what they're doing with a couple of their people, I'm very much just like, okay, I'll make sure that I tune in because I actually want to see this play out versus just catching highlights on social media, stuff like that.
Nice. So let's get into like wrestling moments, wrestlers themselves. I'll just kind of open the floor to you, like. Let's say I'm a guy who's like, well, wrestling, I mean, everybody says it's cool. How could you sell me on some of these storylines, some of these characters, some events specifically? I mean, you went a little bit over that with the last two people you mentioned, Undertaker and Kane, of course. But what are some more wrestling characters, moments, like things? Let's get into the details.
I think if you're someone that's wanting to come in now, it is a pretty good time. If around this time a year ago, I would say would probably have been the best time to come into wrestling as like a brand new person. Which wrestling is a soap opera, so there's really never a bad time to come in because they are pretty much constantly showing you what happened last week on the show. If you go to watch a pay-per-view, you're getting video packages before each match detailing why the match that's about to happen is about to happen. So it is pretty, all things considered, it is a very accessible thing to get into, considering that, especially like WWE, that has something like almost 1,700 episodes just of WWE Monday Night Raw.
Wow.
Like, yeah,
would you be able to like go back to the first Raw and like watch them all?
I don't know. And part of that is because they used to have the WWE Network, which was phenomenal.
Right.
It was $10 a month. You could look up pretty much every pay-per-view. You could look up individual wrestlers to watch their matches. But then they started to do the pay-per-views on Peacock, and so a lot of the content shifted to Peacock. And then Peacock is abysmal trying to find stuff to watch.
Yeah, that'll be the way. So, like, why don't they have like a fucking wrestling like hub on there? You know what I mean?
They do, but they don't have it. Like, it's not.
Is it not all there? Okay, so the network did it better, is what you're saying.
Before, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
And
Right. Yeah,
so international people, they still have the network. Like you can still access the network if you're international. Like I was saying how I'm not very tech savvy before we started recording this. I don't know if you get like a VPN, if that will let you get access.
I do have
to
NordVPN, so
there you go. So I don't know if that lets you access it. I'm not sure how that works.
Wait, so is it just at a certain company or a certain country? Sorry, not company.
I don't know what the countries are. I don't, because it is some. I just know that whenever they sold the pay-per-view rights to Peacock, a bunch of the old WWE stuff moved there. But now Raw has the streaming rights on Netflix. So I don't know what the plan is. They haven't really done a good job of communicating like what the Peacock, how that's going to switch over, or are they going to keep the pay-per-view rights? I'm very much in I'm just going to wait and see what they tell me. But I'm sure there is some kind of like between YouTube and Peacock and the WWE network and Daily Video, Daily Motion, you can probably find all of the Raws going all the way back if you wanted to.
I mean, not that anyone. I mean, that was just a dumb hypothetical question coming from me, just out of like curiosity. But that does raise a bigger question about preservation. That's not what this episode's about, but like, it is kind of abysmal these days, right, with preservation of media and stuff. But like, again, much like, would I want to go back and watch every SNL? Probably not. But it's nice to know that it's somewhere, and we need better from you media companies, damn it, from all you streamers. But hey, whatever. So you're telling me like Peacock is where you probably would find most wrestling stuff these days, unless it's streamed live, then it's on Netflix. If it's Raw specifically, am I right?
Yeah, for WWE, Peacock is where you want to go, especially for like the more recent stuff. Which, if you're just jumping into, I don't think you need to know what happened in the '90s to truly appreciate, what is going on today. You probably don't really need to know what happened a decade ago to know what's going on today. We are now entering into a time in WWE specifically where, as a longtime fan, I do feel like I'm being rewarded for being a longtime fan, because under the previous administration and the previous creative leadership, they did not care. It was, you could have someone go out on Monday, and then on SmackDown they're coming out as a completely different character, and they just don't address it. It very much was like insulting the viewer's intelligence a lot, and that has really cut down in recent years, which has been fantastic. And that is one of the things where it's like, yeah, if you were to watch this past Monday's Raw, the rivalry between Seth Rollins and CM Punk, and now there's this Bronson Reed guy just re-debuted on Saturday. Well, why does that? I don't really get, the history there. And like I would understand it because, again, I've been a longer term fan. But for someone who's just tuning in, they address it. Like, they cut the promo of just like, yeah, Bronson Reed, he decided he was done waiting his turn. He targeted this guy because he went for the big dog in the yard, and now we recruited him. He got hurt. He he like shattered an ankle, or both of them. I don't remember exactly what happened. And now we like recruited him, and we're like, hey, join up with us, and sky's the limit. And here we go. And then you're caught up.
See, and
that's all you need.
That's the beauty of it. I mean, it's like, I equate it like this, obviously, as an anime fan. You could just jump right into Dragon Ball Z. Still great. You learn a lot if you start at Dragon Ball Z, go all the way through Super. But it could be more rewarding starting at Dragon Ball, the original series, because there's a lot of references in Z and Super to that original show, but it's not necessary, right?
Yeah. And to me, at least for wrestling, I would definitely recommend just jumping in. If you can jump in with a person that is a fan, like if you have a friend that's into wrestling and you want to get into it, be like, hey, can we watch Raw together? Can we, go if there's a pay-per-view or a live event somewhere, like, can we go? And have them kind of break stuff down for you.
Mhm.
And then if it is just like, oh, I actually really, Bronson Reed, this dude's like, what about him? Throw his name in YouTube. You can catch matches. You can catch highlights. You can, and
Nice.
then, oh, okay, this makes sense. And then you can kind of start piecing stuff together from there.
So do you feel like in that aspect that that's why the community is so strong? Because, like, there's so much there, and then there's always the long time fans who are trying to help the newer people understand things, and there's just a very much like community aspect to this whole thing.
There can be, so everything I love has the worst fan base on the internet. Because
Oh, like Kingdom Hearts.
So that's not one that I'm particularly into, but like
I love
Marvel,
Kingdom Hearts.
DC, Xbox, Sony, Xbox.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just that weird. There's a weird tribalism.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
oh no, this is the thing that I like. So this other thing that's not that, but is kind of the same, actually sucks, and you're stupid for enjoying it. The so I would, and there are super cool people. Like one of my really good friends, Tyler. We've never met in person. He lives on the other. It turns out he lives on the other side of Missouri as I do, but we have been friends for like a decade or more because we were in a Facebook group in college that was, being wrestling fans, and then we
Nice.
just like stayed in touch. So I mean, there are obviously going to be pockets of people that are just like, oh my god, you are the worst. But if you can start with like a group of friends, and then kind of you can find people on like the Squared Circle subreddit is kind of either the worst place on the internet, or it's actually really cool, depending on your level of commitment and how much time you spend there, I guess. But yeah, I think it's existing on the internet in the year of our Lord 2025. Of whether what your experience is going to be. Talking about your opinions of pro wrestling on the internet, because there are
Nice.
very welcoming people, there are very cool people, but then you also do have the gatekeeping, tribalistic,
Of course.
d-bags that think that they're superior to you because they can name their top 10 Katsuyori Shibata and New Japan wrestling matches.
I mean, you're touching upon something like, I feel like this has not been addressed before on the show. When it comes to nerding out on shit, there is a possibility of negativity, and gatekeeping is always to be expected, especially the nerdier you get. But hey, it is what it is. There are cool people out there like you. In fact, all the people who've talked to fucking me about wrestling have been very welcoming, super nice. Mr. Hawks is super cool. Foxy Steve is super cool. Fucking a few other people I can't think of off the top of my head. So at least there are good people out there. But what's your advice for someone who's encountering a gatekeeper like on a topic?
Disengage. Just don't give them oxygen. Just like, cool, congratulations, great for you. It's very much the meme of like the stick figures over here on one side talking, and then the one guy's just like, that you're not supposed to enjoy that, and then just the big thumbs up from the one, and then they just go back to their conversation.
Yeah, and he's like, stop having fun.
Yes, yeah, the stop having fun. You're not supposed to like this. And that's kind of like the part of what we wanted our show to be, of just like, no, cool people talking about wrestling because wrestling's cool, and
that's great.
Like what you like, don't be a dick. Put it on a t-shirt. I'm pretty sure he already has.
I would honestly love that fucking idea for a t-shirt. I would love to wear it. Great. Well, hey, that's a great reason to check out his podcast, because it sounds like they aren't gatekeepers, and we don't fuck with gatekeepers here. All right, we just don't. All right, the only gatekeeping I will ever use is, I don't know. It's hard. I could be like, mouse and keyboard for FPS games, but then that's bullshit, because I've been dominated by controller players with their auto aim. So it's like, no matter what you're gonna gatekeep, it's bullshit. All right, you're full of shit. Be cool. That's all I'm trying to say. I was trying to gatekeep Jacob into hating Tessa Blanchard. I don't even know
I
who
just
that
saw
is,
that.
Mr. Hawks.
No, we need to gatekeep her out of wrestling.
Oh, okay.
Racist, big old racist,
Oh, fuck that bitch,
unapologetic
then.
racist. Yeah, she awful.
Oh,
She's
we don't
terrible.
like
She gets
racists.
chanted.
Mm-mm.
She's a racist chanted at her. Because again, as pro wrestling is full of wonderful, giving people that care about the art, they care about the sport, they care about the fans. And then wrestling, unfortunately, is also filled to the brim with just awful assholes. And it is truly heartbreaking because so often it's just like in life, but so often the assholes are so prevalent that you do have to, you have to deal with them, and they get put up on a pedestal and get put on television, and it's just like, well, I'm gonna try to not fuck with this part and pick and choose, but this is I had the opportunity whenever they did the Kind of Funny community podcast. I had the opportunity to interview Greg Miller with Dalton.
Wow.
And we kind of talked about that. It kind of veered into that of just like, man, it is so difficult because, boy, wouldn't it be great if life was easy and good was good, bad was bad. There's not real much crossover or gray areas because, like, WWE as a company, dog shit. They have a long history of bad things. Criminal, heinous things. But like Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston seem like the nicest human beings on the planet. And if you refuse to engage with WWE, well, it's not just the people up top, and it's the same thing, with the Activision Blizzard stuff under Bobby Kotick. There's not a correct thing to do.
Right.
So whenever we talked about like whenever the big allegations against Vince McMahon came out the first time and the second time, it is something, that we didn't shy away from talking about just because, we really like this match. We should talk about the match. It's like, no, some things are bigger than the stuff that we like. So we do got to, talk about it. But I think to me, and boy, we went way off topic here, but
hey, it's a good conversation.
As long as you're aware, I truly don't think that there is a right or wrong. Now, if you're like, well, this behavior's okay because I like the wrestling, that I don't know about. But I think, I don't know. It's just, I'm talking myself into a circle of just, I wish stuff was easy.
It could seem tough, but like, just because you enjoy something because one thing about it is problematic doesn't make you a bad person, honestly. Because a lot of good people are behind that too. It's just that the bad people are on its face, sometimes the loudest, sometimes the tallest, right? It should not void out all of the work and love that went into whatever it is that came out of that process. It's unfortunate that they had, like, there's a stain upon certain things. I mean, oh my God, what's the fucking producer guy that
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. I mean, I love Tarantino movies, but they're all Harvey Weinstein joints too, right? And it's like, I'm not going to boycott watching those movies. And it's unfortunate, but it's like, then take a look at everything in this whole goddamn world. Some disgusting fucker is somehow involved in it. Like, it's tough out there. But like, we're not endorsing bad people by enjoying something, right? And I don't know. It's a tough one. I do agree with that.
And you do what you can where, okay, well, I won't, because like my hard line is the WWE runs the Saudi Arabia shows. I haven't watched a single one of those. I don't stream those. I don't watch, highlights and stuff. I stay away from those. And, you do what you can where you can. And to me, I think it's more about putting good into the world.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that I personally can do to stop a billionaire.
No.
But we're a $1 billion corporation that's a multimedia conglomerate. That spans multiple televised and pay-per-view events and has their own arenas and stuff. But I think it is very much just Mr. Hawks is my hero.
Just one. I mean, I was gonna say that, but I was gonna say, but also $1 billion things are a construct and not really one person either. It's still a bigger problem that was not solved by, shooting someone in the fucking face in New York or whatever.
sure.
You know what I mean? But like at the same, it's just again, it's tough out there. But like, hey,
So yeah,
as long as you stay true to yourself, right?
and I think that's what's important. As long as you know what you're about and you do what you can where you can, it is. I don't know if you've seen The Good Place.
Oh yeah, big time.
But just the like, oh no, things have gotten so out of control that it's buying a blueberry, you can't do it. So it's just that that's where we're kind of stuck at, because
exactly
great society we got going for us right now.
It's fully horrible on every level.
To walk things back a little bit, you talked about being able to go in like certain characters or wrestlers or events.
I was
to get into.
Before we get into that, we've been talking about the negative, and that's one of my bullet points. Is there any of the negative things that you want to get out of the way before we get to the fun stuff?
I mean,
anything
it's mostly
else?
that. It is a lot of just the like knowing that there are bad people involved that have done truly horrible things. And then also, the long term, it's getting better the more that we learn about like concussions, because that's a huge thing. Like, go back to the 90s and watch those. They're hitting them in the head with the chair. Mm-hmm. They're not putting their hands up. They're just tanking that straight to the head.
Right.
And now see with what we know about CTE, going back and watching some of those old matches is rough.
It's rough.
Because it's just like, I like Mick Foley, the Mankind Cactus Jack matches. Like, I know for sure that moment right there changed his life forever.
Oh yeah.
And some of that, like, there really truly is an appreciation that needs to be put forth for what these people are doing to their bodies.
Yeah.
In the name of entertainment. But like I said, just the carny practices and
right.
People not getting paid what they deserve or at all in some instances.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bad actors. So that is just but again, name a profession or a sport or entertainment medium that doesn't have that.
Exactly.
So
it's just how it is.
Yeah. So I think those are really the biggest negatives. Is I think that the fan base can be incredibly toxic, especially when it comes to the women wrestlers. There's some truly gross behavior that gets put on, including people like Sonya Deville is her WWE name. I'm blanking on what her actual name is, but doesn't matter. Like being stalked and harassed and someone trying to break into her house. Like, it's people are being followed through the airport. Like, don't be weird. Don't buy a ticket to an airport with a giant stack of 8x10s and Funko Pops to have people try to sign at 7 a.m. Like, weirdo behavior.
That's loser.
For sure. So I think those would be like the big negatives of just the industry itself. But like I said, that's not necessarily specific to wrestling as much as it is just capitalism and society.
Well, and nerds on the wrong side of the coin sometimes, right? Like,
for sure.
Just back the fuck up, man. These are just real people. They're still just doing a job, trying to entertain you. You do not stalk them, please. Do not.
And the line is so weird because, like, a lot of, especially the people who are using their real names. John Cena's real name is John Cena. Randy Orton's real name is Randy Orton. It's not all The Rock is Dwayne Johnson. So there is that weird level of, like, borderline parasocial relationship. Of, I know this person because I've seen them on TV forever and that's their name, but it's they're playing themselves dialed up to 10. They're a version of themselves that you see. So I think that kind of, because it's not like that with traditional actors. Now, granted, you'll see people do interviews, like Rainn Wilson will do an interview and people will run up, be like, Dwight, and expect him to be Dwight right there. But for the most part, people realize, like, you play a character on TV and I like that character. With wrestlers, people almost like expect them to be that all the time.
Yeah, I think parasocial relationship is on the dot with that. Then, like that, those can really go wrong. But just
Mhm.
hey, no matter how much you love someone out there, you know, with whatever you're into, just remember they're just like people, just like you, and just give them some respect. You know,
For sure. It goes
um,
a very long way.
it really does. Okay, so let's get to the fun stuff. Let's talk a little bit about some wrestlers and some events. Just rattle them off, and I'll try to pull them up, at least pictures of them up.
So right now there are two people, well, three that I think are the most compelling characters on in professional wrestling. Um, the first one is Timeless Tony Storm. She is you'll see her when you pull her up, but the TLDR version of her character in AEW is she was a punk rocker. She lost her championship, went insane, and now thinks that she is a 1920s silver screen era actress.
Whoa.
It is. There's no reason this should work as well as it does, but like her entrance is in black and white. Somewhere in this giant pile of stuff that I have to still organize and do, um, is a black and white figure that they made. Like one of her special edition action figures is just black and white except for the red lipstick. Um, she had an amazing feud last year. It was the feud of the year, or at least one of them. God, it's so sick. Um,
That's awesome.
with Mariah May, who was like her protege, and then she won an opportunity to wrestle Tony for her championship, and it was going to be, Tony was so happy for her because, okay, now we get to have this match, and it's going to be a great time, and Mariah May just blasts her in the head with her high heel, bloodies her, and then it becomes this almost like year-long feud of them going back and forth, including a certain point where Tony Storm leaves, comes back. That is her in one of those pictures was her cosplaying as her opponent, and it looked way too much like her. But it included a few weeks where the original Tony Storm, like with the punk rock, she came in like she was just debuting. Like she was excited to be like, oh, hey, there's a video she made of like asking people to watch her match for her. And like and then the reveal was, oh no, she was playing the role of her former self. And it was so incredibly well done. There is a full playlist, because I sent it to a friend of mine a while back, on YouTube of basically the entire timeline of Tony Storm. And if you're someone, and really you can like scrub through even if you're not interested in like the matches part of it, you can scrub through those and just watch like promos and interviews, because it is some of the most entertaining stuff on television just in general.
Heck yeah.
And then the other two are also in AEW, but they are very much intertwined. The first one being Swerve Strickland, and the second one being Hangman Adam Page. AEW as a whole is very much, it feels like it has always kind of been a vehicle for Hangman Adam Page. And this is Swerve Strickland here. His initial ride, he is the anxious millennial cowboy. He is, a man of the people, and he overcame his own self-doubts and self-sabotaging behavior to win the world championship, and it was one of the best feel-good moments that we've had in wrestling in a really long time. Ultimately, he lost the championship to CM Punk, and then he kind of became obsessed with the championship. And Swerve Strickland then comes in, who we see here, and he was just like, no, you've had your shot, now it's my time. And at a certain point, Swerve Strickland breaks into Hangman's house, looks at like the drawing that his child has done, is like he's cutting this promo basically over his baby's crib, And at that moment, somehow, Swerve Strickland went from being a bad guy to a good guy.
Oh shit.
Because people were just like, holy shit, this dude is insane. That kind of rules. And then when people started to cheer Swerve Strickland, Adam Page, who was the good guy, is looking around like, what the fuck? You're cheering this man who broke into my home? And then he went off the deep end and went just psycho. Ultimately, they did this really nice video on their social media where Swerve Strickland's manager helped buy Swerve Strickland's childhood home for him.
What the?
And then on television, Hangman Adam Page burned the house to the ground. And
Holy
it was
shit.
one of the most insane things. There's a promo he cuts where he is just screaming of like, he broke into my home. Do you know what that does to a man? And they loved him for it. And it's like, oh, he's not really wrong. It led to a death match that they had on pay-per-view, and their paths are pretty much constantly being intertwined. And now we're kind of at a point where Hangman is starting to redeem himself because he crossed a line with one of his friends, and he's realizing like, oh, I need to get myself in check. And Strickland is very much like, yeah, this dude burned my house down. So, the Texas Death Match was, that was something where, again, like, I am not a fan of that type of wrestling, but I can respect that it was done very, very well. When you have a man drinking another man's blood, like, literally from his own head, like, the cut was on his head, he stuck his head underneath and, like, open mouth, like, that's a little much for me.
Wow. That's fucking awesome.
it's the sickos. That the AEW has the sickos.
Yeah, they do.
So it's
I've heard that.
Yeah. So those are probably two of the most dynamic characters going now, and I say that knowing full well that like Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, like that stuff has kind of been wrapped up.
Yeah.
But you know, at the time, that is a multi-year story being told involving several other people. And that's kind of what I meant by like last year, we really kind of saw not the last chapter, because we are still very much like part of that story is being told now, but, and it is being, for most of it is done very, very well. Someone that I will also point out that I am a huge fan of is in WWE, Gunther. He is the ring general. He is someone that I did not like for a really long time until he started to wrestle for WWE NXT UK. But he is quickly become one of my favorite in-ring competitors. His character is basically wrestling is sacred, and I'm going to make sure that I am its champion and its representative because I'm the only one that truly respects this as a sport. The way that he wrestles is unlike pretty much anybody else, in the sense that, you know, you watch somebody wrestle and they have their finisher move, and that's a lot of the times, if it's not like a sneaky roll-up, the finisher is what is going to win the match. Gunther can end a match with a sleeper hold, which is like a basic move. Yeah. He can end it with a power bomb sometimes. He ends it with a chop sometimes. He's ended with a boot. Like, he just beats people in a way that no one else does, and it is highly entertaining.
That's awesome.
You know, he doesn't have a ton of character stuff that he does because he really doesn't need to. It like his character is when the bell rings, and that's when he comes alive.
So he's not really doing the promos. Like, if people don't know what promos are, like, can you just give a quick rundown?
Promo is like an interview. A lot of the time it is essentially it's like a monologue, you know, whether it's in the ring in front of, you know, all of the live people there in attendance, or they're backstage and, you know, being interviewed by somebody, or a lot of the time they are just, you know, talking to themselves or talking to the camera. But it is like it's usually them calling somebody out or say, pretty much stating their motivation. The promos are where you get all the exposition for the story of why a match is happening.
Yeah, and then
and he
sometimes
does
stuff happens during the promos, like you said,
yeah, people
burning
get,
a fucking house down.
so
Right.
yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, what place? And you sit in a rocking chair and you throw a cigar and it sets a house ablaze.
Awesome.
Or someone will interrupt of like, hey, okay, well, I just won a match, I want to come for a championship, and then someone comes like, oh no, you're not getting the championship, I want the championship. So then that sets up a match for them down the line. Or different things can happen for and that's one of the neat things about wrestling too, is it's not just in the ring when stuff happens. Like, you can be watching, and I remember I can't remember the name of the specific one. Dalton, I know, knows it for sure. But it was WWE NXT, which is kind of like the AAA league for wrestling. And it was Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa had just lost the tag titles, or they lost a match. And at the end of every broadcast, especially the pay-per-views, you get this like little thing in the bottom corner of the screen that basically says, oh, the show is over. They don't run credits, but you just get the little tag at the bottom. And that means the show's over. So the little tag happened, and then Ciampa just brutally assaults his tag team partner. He's like, this was supposed to be our time, but it's my time. And it was like the first time that we're like, oh, dang, hang on, you're fucking with the format now. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I apologize.
Oh, I've been dropping F-bombs left and right.
It's just like, okay, so we are like, we're this is kind of uncharted waters. That's super neat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So like, even when you think the show's over, oh, stuff is happening. They just when they turned Kevin Owens heel, or bad guy, they did that after the show had gone off the air, and they used social media cell phone footage of him attacking Cody Rhodes in the parking lot. Whoa. So it wasn't even on the main broadcast. It was literally awesome. Just posted on social media.
Cool.
So yeah, just like there are rules to wrestling, but like they get played with all the time, and which is pretty neat. But yeah, so Gunther he can do promos very well, because he speaks his point very well. He's Austrian, so he like has a thick accent, and just like which makes him sound even more badass. But it's like, that's not the important part, because he is just but at the same time, like, it kind of is, because he thinks he is so much better than everybody, and the way he talks down to people, and it's just like, oh man, yeah, this dude needs to get his shit kicked. But then he ends up just chopping him to death, and it's just awesome. So big fan of Gunther.
That's awesome. Great. Now he's on my radar. I'm gonna have to check out some of his matches. I want to see him just do like a basic ass wrestling move and take someone down. That's pretty great.
I'm gonna him versus Tommaso Ciampa, and him versus Drew McIntyre and Sheamus at WrestleMania 39 for the Intercontinental Championship. That triple threat was probably my favorite match of that year.
All right, I'm gonna have to check that out later. Probably link a link to the match below if it's on YouTube or something. Put in the description if you are watching on YouTube right now. If not,
I think it is.
We'll tell you where to go for that one.
We'll find.
Because that's a specific match, so we're gonna have to put that out there. Any historical stuff? Like, I was sort of into wrestling when I was like 12, just because I had a friend that was into it, just for like 1 year. And so, like, of course, like Mankind was super cool, and The Undertaker was super cool, and then then you had Stone Cold, and then The Rock. Like all the big names, whatever. Anything from the past that you would like to shout out, if people want to watch a specific match or situation?
Man, because there is so much like history to it. There's many things that you can. Yeah, there's so many things that you can point out. Like, I mean, depending how far back you want to go, like Kofi Mania, where he beat Daniel Bryan in WWE for the World Heavyweight Championship, or like the WWE Championship. Like, that was a historically significant moment for sure, including that whole build up. historical. You have
Awesome.
like one of the matches that I recommend to somebody. If you have not watched wrestling before,
Mm-hmm.
recommending wrestling is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Or recommending specific matches can be difficult because there is so many different kinds and everybody has their own tastes. You know, what I think is like a 5-star classic. Like if I were to point out, be like, oh, you need to watch Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn in NXT. It's Shinsuke's NXT debut. Not everybody's going to have the appreciation of why that match is so great. You know, especially if you're watching it for the first time because you don't really have the context of what makes a great wrestling match a great wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I think I can point to is WrestleMania 17, TLC 2, the Hardy Boys versus the Dudley Boys versus Edge and Christian. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Each of the teams have their own kind of, you know, the Dudleys put people through tables. The Hardys go off of ladders. Edge and Christian beat people with chairs. So they put them all together. They hung the tag titles above the ring. And the first person to pull those down, their team is the new champions.
Sick.
And it is a car wreck of a match, but in the like best possible way.
Sweet.
And it also really set the standard for, you know, what those ladder matches and those tag team matches can be. So,
Sweet.
Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair, main eventing WrestleMania. First time two women of color have main evented WrestleMania. That was a truly historic moment, and like the sheer emotion that you can see on, you know, between the two of them as that match is starting. Like the pro wrestling is real. That is real.
Yeah.
God, man, the Mankind, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell. Everybody knows that one. You know,
even Mankind, I know that
one. him lying to Vince McMahon of like, yeah, I was up there. Yeah, I can take that. That's fine. You know, falling off of the cage through the table, then falling through the cage onto the mat.
That is that is like the type of shit I'll never forget. Stone Cold shouldn't have turned heel in WrestleMania 18. Phantom Kook in the chat just said. What do you feel about that?
That is correct. Right. That was a historically bad decision.
All right.
That did not pan out how they wanted it to. Like I said, when wrestling is bad, it is awful.
Cringe.
But when it's great, sometimes stuff happens, and it is great. But so they also like to sometimes just kind of swerve the audience just for the sake of the surprise, instead of, you know, predictability isn't always a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. There's no in between. Phantom Kook says, "Yeah, there you go, there you go." Awesome. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. So when in the world of wrestling, like, what are you looking forward to? Just in general, you can answer that however you like. I mean, with your content or with the actual wrestling itself. What are you looking forward to?
So I just had the chance to be a manager for the very first time. I've been in wrestling doing commentary and interviews and stuff for about 7-8 years. I did that on Saturday. It went super well. That was actually that's going to be my last time working in wrestling, just because I've kind of hit my wall a little bit of, well, kind of what we were talking about earlier. Of like, at a certain point when it feels like an obligation, the performance is going to suffer from it. So, that was great, but awesome. Like, that was such a great experience. In general, there's a lot. I am very, very invested in this Hangman Page story as we lead to All Out, where he's going to challenge Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship, and his big redemption story. I'm very interested to see where this new Seth Rollins faction is going in WWE. They brought back Bronson Reed, who we saw earlier, and he's with Braun Breaker, and now Paul Heyman is his guy. You know, he betrayed both Roman Reigns and CM Punk at WrestleMania, so I'm very interested to see where that goes. Really hoping we start getting a little bit more with the New Day. They turned, they had this giant moment where they turned on Big E. I broke my neck. So what? Hit him with the so what? Really? But they haven't. The follow up there has been pretty rough. Yeah, Karrion Kross, seeing what is going on with him is very, very cool. Trying to think. And that's the thing too with wrestling is like there's so many different moving parts and so much stuff to try to keep up with. So for context, Karrion Kross for the last several months, or more than a year at this point, has very much been kind of the devil on the shoulder of people. And he's even going as far as kind of mimicking hairstyles when he's talking to people. And everyone that he has kind of had some sort of prolonged interaction with has gone bad.
Oh,
so like
shit.
Seth Rollins, he was in Seth Rollins' ear for a minute. Seth Rollins turned heel. You see him talking to Xavier Woods. New Day turns heel. Chad Gable, and now he's kind of talking to Sami Zayn. So it's very interesting to see where that can go. And he cut this promo on web exclusive post show, and it was kind of his pipe bomb moment. Which, for those who don't know, the pipe bomb promo was CM Punk cut this promo on John Cena and essentially WWE before Money in the Bank. I don't know what year it was. But basically he starts talking about, he mentions his friend Colt Cabana, who got fired from WWE. He talks about Vince McMahon being a bad person. He calls Triple H and Stephanie McMahon dumb. He insults them, and it all feels like, oh, he's gone off script. He's like saying stuff that people know, but you don't say. But he's saying it on TV. And then so that's the pipe bomb promo. So now anytime anyone cuts a promo that is like, or does an interview that is blurring the lines between fact and fiction, it's called a pipe bomb. So he cuts this promo, and now the fan reaction to Cross when he shows up on screen has been pretty noticeable. So it's going to be curious to see if we see that lead to more of a in-ring. Do we see him wrestling more? Do we see him in higher profile stuff, or how that's going to play out? Trying to think. Nice. NXT, we got Ethan Page and Ricky Saints down there. Excited to see what they do. Obafemi is someone that you very much need to keep an eye out on. He is one of my favorite people in wrestling right now as well. Just a giant man hurting people in the coolest way. The ruler of NXT. The Rock calls himself the final boss, which is very bold of him considering that Obafemi is walking the same earth.
Dang, this is a big dude.
Big boy.
That's a
big boy.
Nice. So it seems like wrestling is not going to stop anytime soon. Seems like it has a bright future, a massive fan base. Seems like an entertaining thing that you can catch up on basically just by putting it on and seeing what the recap says, and then maybe going back a couple and then just moving forward, and not hard to get into, right? Like not impenetrable.
Not at all. And it's about as accessible now as it's ever been.
Sweet.
Like I said, between, you got to have you have to have a subscription to either Netflix to watch it raw live or Peacock to watch the live pay-per-views. But like I grew, whenever up until 2017, whenever it was that the network launched, I remember still having to like buy the pay-per-views at $60 a pop, which AEW still kind of have to do, and which they stream their stuff on Max. So again, like that's what I was watching Dynamite on before we started doing this. So it eventually I think they are going to move like their pay-per-view stuff to Max as well, have a way to buy it there. But so you said that, but I mean, this last one, I went over to Dalton's house, and us and a group of people just kind of split the cost and hung out and got pizza and watched it and had a great time.
That's pay-per-view, baby. That's how you do it.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, if you're like me and you have a subscription to a bunch of bullshit through Hulu, it's all just on Hulu, and that's pretty chill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But hey, we all got Netflix. You could probably watch some stuff there. Peacock you might not have, but some of it's on Max. I mean, I will look up some sort of guide to wherever the hell all of the wrestling lives, and I'll put a link to that in the description below as well to hopefully help you check some of it out. Maybe you have, I mean, you should have at least one of the streaming services to check it out, of course. But just a little message to the viewer there. I will say we're winding down. We're coming to the end of this interview. Thanks again for being here. But I do want to just give you open reign. Is there anything else you'd like to say about wrestling before we get into just promoting you and all the things you do?
I mean, I feel like I've hit it at a certain point. I'm just going to start repeating myself. But yeah, wrestling is special. It's now granted, like you may watch it and not be super into it. Nothing wrong with that. But if you give it a real chance, because there is a level of cheesiness innate with pro wrestling, but if you can suspend your disbelief and just let yourself have a good time watching it, I think you will eventually. I think it'll click. I think you will find somebody, whether it is a Hangman Adam Page or a CM Punk or a Randy Orton or a Danhausen. Gotta love Danhausen.
God,
love
man,
that
Danhausen
Danhausen.
rules.
You will find something that you like, and even if you just follow that one thing, I think that there's a lot to love. Also, if you have the chance to go to an independent show, I am very, very fortunate that I am surrounded by awesome companies. In the St. Louis area, we have WrestleMax, PWE, Glory Pro, St. Louis Anarchy. I'm sure, I'm sure there's several that I'm missing, but like there is high quality people that they bring on people that you may have seen on TV. They have people that you will see on TV eventually. There's also people that you probably won't see on TV, but they are fun. And when you go to these live shows, especially like the smaller ones, the interactivity with the performers is second to none. Like, people will yell at you. I was yelling at people on Saturday, and they were yelling at me, and it was a great time.
That was really like a really fun thing about going to live shows is the heckling, the chanting. Like the chanting is very like soccer coded, in a lot of ways, right? There's like specific chants you do at certain times, and everyone's yelling at the wrestlers. Like it is such a fun thing to do in person. Absolutely, my eyes were open to that.
Yeah, for sure. So that would be that. If you take away one thing from this interview, it would be check and see if there is a local independent company running or coming through, and checking it out. Because again, like that live experience there with the crowd, getting into it, chanting, yelling, it's so much fun.
Hell yeah. In Vegas, apparently we have Big Valley Wrestling. It's just a Google search that brought that up.
Okay.
And excuse the term, don't mean to offend anyone, but I'm just literally reading from a ticket. Micromania Midget Wrestling is a thing in Vegas too, which sounds awesome.
That might be, I think that almost, I don't remember the name of the company, but there is like a traveling show that is,
I think it's Micromania.
And it may be. I don't know, because it came through a couple years ago here. I didn't get a chance to go to that one, but nice. Yeah. And some of the like people will look at it like it's a novelty, and like they will go in, but some of the stuff that they do is legitimately crazy impressive.
Nice.
It was El Torito and Hornswoggle did the WLC match in WWE. They're both little people, and they put it on as like a joke, but like legitimately then put on a banger of a match.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so it's like,
love that.
People like, they kind of like treat it some of the presentation like feels disrespectful because I think people are going not for the correct reasons, but then when they actually get there and they see what's happening, they get bought in.
I'm
And
sure
it's
they
like,
get
cool.
impressed.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's actually a show on Friday and Saturday here.
Nice.
Because I just did a Google search and I was like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, fuck, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's surprising like how close a independent wrestling show is probably to you at some point once a month.
Absolutely. Go out there, do your own damn Google search. Your
Yeah.
city wrestling, indie wrestling, and that's how I found a couple things, some
Yep.
tickets. So yeah, absolutely. Great time talking to you, Asa. Thank you so much for joining for me for this conversation. I've learned even more about wrestling. Hopefully, you're interested and you want to check it out. That's kind of the whole point of the show. But I do want to give you a chance to tell the people who you are, where they can find you, talk about your podcast a bit. So let them know.
Yeah, I am Asa Gray, the 5-star man. That's pretty much my handle on every site. Blue Sky, Instagram are my two main ones. And then I do a podcast with my friend Dalton, the nerdiest part of the ring, where we talk about the stuff in wrestling that makes us happy. We're going to record tomorrow night. Well, so this goes up Friday. So our episode also went up this morning, where we are going to talk about our uh, experience on Saturday because we did the show that I was a manager for Farmer Billy Hills. Dalton wrestled in the main event as a fundraiser for the school district that he works at, because we had these. Missouri is #1 in the nation with confirmed tornadoes touchdown the last time I checked. And one of those, unfortunately, did a significant amount of damage to the high school building.
Oh.
So this was a Midwest Throwdown, helped put on a fundraiser show to all of the. I want to say it was close to $1,900 we were able to raise. So we'll be talking about that event. It was a absolute blast. We'll also be talking about AEW's pay-per-view Double or Nothing that was this past Sunday as well, that I mentioned earlier, and just kind of get caught up because it's been a while since we had done an episode. As we're, like I said, we're kind of we're getting our feet back underneath us, trying to figure out exactly what we want the show to be going forward, because we've been doing it for a little over a year. We've been podcasting together for like more than that, 9 years, almost 10 years probably.
Woo! You've got me.
Because it's we have had a journey of it, we'll say.
Nice.
But it has led us to do some pretty incredible things, and have some pretty great experiences. So, but yeah, Nerdiest Part of the Ring. We do have our interview with Greg Miller. We have our interview with Rebecca Valentine from IGN.
Ooh, nice.
Talking about her talking about her fandom in AEW, because she watches AEW. So yeah, but on Blue Sky, on Instagram at the 5-star man. It's with the number 5, or is it? I don't even remember anymore.
I think it's.
I can go.
Is it?
Yeah, on Blue Sky it's the 5. It's the number. Instagram it might be.
Oh, you're right. It's a number. My bad.
I should know
I'm
this.
all being formal and stuff and putting typing out 5. That's correct.
Oh no. This we ain't formal, baby. This is.
I mean, I got you over here on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? 5-star man. We got you over here on X. 5-star man with the 5, number 5 every time.
Yeah, I do. I've stepped away from the X platform.
Yeah,
just
fuck that platform. It sucks.
Everything. But I've been fortunate that we came up with the 5-star man nickname. My friend Shannon got that for me. So, and then I was just like, oh, I can do that for everything. And so far, nice. I've had very good luck with it. There's only been a couple that I've had to like try to change, like had to tweak a little to get there. So
yeah, some losers out there think they're OM Jesus, but there's only one. I'm the actual. I've been OM Jesus since like I don't know. When did World of Warcraft come out?
Oh God,
like maybe 5, the first like the 4 year 4 or something like that. That's how long
Yeah,
I've been home
that's
Jesus. I'm just saying. I've had the goddamn email, the everything, and then just certain people just want to like try and steal it. But hey, there's
cutting
only
the
one.
OG in OM Jesus.
That's right. But there's only one 5-star man. You're looking at him. Thank you so much for guessing on the show. I really appreciate you showing up and talking about wrestling and being my third or fourth, well, technically third episode of the first season of the show. I really appreciate you coming, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Hell yeah, man. And I definitely need to check out some of your content for myself. I'll watch that Greg Miller and Rebecca Valentine interview or listen to it because I want to hear that.
Hell yeah.
Like a good time. But hey, for everyone else, you are here for the WYBNOO show on Neon Pocket Dimension. Remember, that's youtube.com/@symbol Neon Pocket Dimension, obviously where you're watching now. But if you're watching live, that's where you can find all our shows on YouTube. If you want to watch us live, we stream a lot on Wednesdays and Thursdays, twitch.tv/Neon Pocket Dimension. Remember, you can also find our gaming stuff at Neon Gaming Dimension on everything. And then, of course, our drunk podcast and our comedy stuff at Odd Valley Studios on YouTube. Again, like I said, thank you, Asa. I'm going to get you out of here. Happy Wednesday to everyone, even though you're watching this on Thursday or actually Friday. But to Asa, you're the best, buddy. Give us your favorite wrestling tagline to head us out.
In a shameless plug, I'll go with how we sign off on Nerdiest Part of the Ring.
Let's go.
Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, watch more wrestling.